I used as my main character Dora Simon, and she was based on two women. One was somebody called Mary Grunfeld, who was a German Jewish refugee who was in Guernsey when the Germans occupied. She was fair-haired, she had blue eyes, she disguised herself under the occupation. But in 1942 she was betrayed, she was deported, and she was murdered. The other woman is one who was an inmate of Ravensbrück, the SS concentration camp for women in Germany. And she, again with her blonde hair, her blue eyes, had been earmarked for the Lebensborn program. And this was Himmler's scheme of breeding a master race based on selected women and SS officers. What they didn't recognize was that actually she too was Jewish. So I amalgamated those stories into my character of Dora. But there's also somebody else I used, and Dora'S Protector in my novel is a man called Maximilian List. Maximilian List was the commandant of Lager Sylt, which was the only SS-run concentration camp in the Channel Islands on Alderney. The other labour camps were run by Organisation Todt. This was the concentration camp, where war crimes were documented and committed. But List was never prosecuted. He lived the rest of his natural life in Hamburg. But when I was in the National Archive, I came across the wanted report for Maximilian List. And speaking as a former historian, I can tell you it was one of those spine-chilling moments where you see this man, you get a physical description of him. He was tall, he was good-looking, he was fair, he had blue eyes, he had a gold tooth. And they then charted the crimes that he committed for which he was wanted to be charged. So those are my key characters. There are others as well. But I thought it was important to write about the occupation. It was important to document both the crimes against labourers, the crimes against the women, because these are still going on. They have a contemporary resonance even now. But I thought as well it was important because perhaps more than any other event in the 20th century, the Second World War has really shaped our national psyche. And we read about it, we see films about it, which really don't expose some of the darker stories of the war. And part of that was to do with the occupation of the Channel Islands, of the war crimes that were committed there, that were never prosecuted, and where the moral dilemmas that people took every day and grappled with every day into survival have really been downplayed in favour perhaps of a more heroic and victorious narrative.